Welcome to the Always On podcast. I'm your host, Duncan MacPherson. And on this podcast, our goal is to enable our audience, who are high caliber, fee-for-service professionals, to always be working on their business and on themselves, personally and professionally. And to that end, on today's podcast, I had a great conversation with Sybil Verge. Sybil is a senior wealth advisor to C-suite executives with Raymond James. She's host of the TV show, The Wealthy Life. You can check that out at wealthylife.com. She's also the author of the book, The Female Edge. And in this conversation, we discussed many things, actually. We wrapped up talking about benevolence and charitable giving and how to position that in your relationship with clients to go deeper into the concept of chemistry, activate belonging in the relationship, and referability. We talked about work-life balance. We talked about the difference between transactional salesmanship and directional stewardship, and all sorts of other great topics. So I hope you really enjoy the conversation. And if you do, make sure you tell your friends and colleagues. And if you have any ideas for themes that we can have on this podcast down the road, just let us know. Thanks for listening. Very excited to have a conversation with a long-term friend, Sybil Verge, who is a legend in the financial services space. She is a financial professional. She is a media personality. She's a thought leader, the author of a book called The Female Edge. She's a serious student of practice management and business development. Sybil, you've attended many of our events, including a mastermind in Palm Springs a while back, which was great. You're an advocate for the dynamic between the financial professional and the relationship with their clients. So thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about your journey and in terms of where you came from, and then tell us where it's all going. Let's start there.
Well, thank you for the nice intro, Duncan. My journey, where do I start? How far back do you want to go? Well, the beginning days, had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I knew I liked numbers. I liked people. I liked math. I liked money. I wanted to control my own destiny, wanted to be a business owner. What do you do with all those things combined? And it was a co-op work experience at a brokerage firm, Midland Walwyn at the time, that opened my eyes to this wonderful career opportunity in wealth management that I didn't know existed, that perfectly aligned with all of my interests. So thank goodness for co-op work experiences, because that's how I got my start, and I never looked back. Now, the rest of the career progression over time just kind of evolved. I didn't have it all mapped out at the beginning, and just one opportunity after another seemed to appear. Some of them presented themselves. Some of them I had to make up, because that's the way life goes, isn't it?
Okay, that's great. And you know what? It lines up perfectly, because last time we talked, you were telling me about your book, The Female Edge. So I saved this. I went on to ChatGPT and I said, summarize the book, The Female Edge by Sybil Verge. I don't know if you've done this yet, but
I have not done that. I need to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And I'm sure it's just pulling it from your website, but it says The Female Edge by Sybil Verge is a guide aimed at empowering women to succeed in their careers, particularly in male-dominated industries, which is fascinating, which obviously financial services is one of them. The book is structured around three key concepts: conceive, believe, and achieve, which is a very nice flow and progression. So as an intern, co-op, you started to conceive the idea of maybe being in the financial services space. And then you started to build some confidence, believe in it, and then you've achieved, which is fantastic. So I'm going to assume that The Female Edge is part of your own personal and professional branding strategy to carve out your niche in a specific segment and to bring value to that segment.
It is partially, but I would say the other part is we need more women in the industry. I mean, it's no secret that it is a male-dominated industry and has been forever since the beginning of time. And when I started in the industry in 1994, only about 10% of financial advisors were women. Here we are today, 30 years later, Duncan. I'm dating myself, aging myself here, but we're at a whopping 20%. I mean, it's some progress, but it's not enough. And so part of the inspiration for writing the book, The Female Edge, was to inspire other women to put their hand up and create some awareness around this industry, but also other male-dominated industries so that women can feel comfortable pursuing different career options. I actually think that wealth management is a natural fit for women. So I really struggle with the idea of why don't we have more women in this industry? Now, I'm going to share a little story going back to when I started, because even though I mentioned as a co-op student, I found this industry was meant for me, doesn't mean it was an easy path by any means. When I finally decided, after having a couple of years experience in the industry as an assistant, that I wanted to be a financial advisor, I was told no. A male colleague of mine said, Sybil, what do you want to be a financial advisor for? The failure rate is high, and you got 3 things going against you that the rest of us don't have. And I thought, really? What are those 3 things? And he said, you're young, you're female, and you're pretty. Nobody's going to take you seriously. You haven't got a hope. Well, I left that interaction feeling so pissed off and mad and deflated. And I thought, what am I going to do with that emotional reaction that I'm having? And I could have done one of 2 things. I could have believed him and just given in, or I could use it to fuel me and prove him wrong. And so I chose the latter, obviously, or I wouldn't be here today. And I really think that's an important message for people. Even once you figure out what you want to do, it doesn't mean it's going to be an easy path to get there. But conceiving the idea of what it is you want to do, believing in yourself that you can do it, even when others are telling you you can't, is an important step. And it doesn't have to be as dramatic as the story I just told. I think the average advisor every day probably questions themselves somewhat. They maybe have an idea of what they want to build as a business, the target market they want to go after, the service, the value proposition they want to deliver to their clients. But maybe there's these little seeds of doubts. Maybe they're not achieving what they thought they would achieve by when they thought they would achieve it. Well, it's okay to pause and look back and reflect. And what's getting in the way? Is it your self-limiting beliefs? Is it others? What do you have control over? And how do you move forward on that?
Well, you covered a lot of ground there, and I'm glad you definitely had the perseverance and that little pseudo pep talk there about those 3 things obviously awakened something in you to the advantage of the industry. You know, in the 90s, because I started in 94 as well in this space.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. 30 years.
Well, happy 30-year anniversary, Duncan.
Yeah, right back at you. But, you know, it's funny because I think one of the reasons why females didn't gravitate to the industry then is because it was incredibly brokery, right? So transactional. And I saw my niche then as being more about stewardship as opposed to the salesmanship and getting away from the transactional to the directional. And then, of course, it went from broker, stockbroker, that type of thing, to planner, financial advisor.
Yeah. And
I think that's one of the reasons why it's advocates like you, but also just the perception that, okay, there needs to be some nurturing. There needs to be a bedside manner. There needs to be some hand-holding, especially now with demography, family dynamics, the complexity, the noise. So, it's interesting. When we coach with a team, it's very common that the quarterback on the team, who is the primary person interacting with our business advisor, the accountability partner, is a female because they're managing the team, ensuring that they get together for team meetings, assuring that there is precision in the deployment and the accountability. And I see that getting more traction over time. I will tell you something. The industry, as you know, has really started to embrace the concept of testimonials. And the most moving testimonial videos I've seen from a client of a financial advisory team is often a female client raving about their female advisor. Like the emotion is palpable. Yes. So that's got to bode well for the continual traction of the industry attracting more females as well. Would you agree?
Oh, I totally agree. And you think about, 50% of the population is female. Why don't we have 50% of advisors female? And I think there's a few reasons for that. I think one is an industry. We don't do a good enough job of educating high school students, university students that this is a viable career option, a very rewarding career option. We make such a difference in people's lives. Mm-hmm. You think about money and what money means to people. Money is the number one cause of stress for Canadians. Mm-hmm. Financial advisors can help eliminate that stress or reduce that stress. It's all with education and planning and support. People don't have to do it on their own. But money is also one of those taboo topics. It's like sex and religion. Nobody wants to talk about it. Actually, I think people talk more about sex than they do about money. And maybe we can change that. And I also think that when you look at clients and what they want, men and women, they all want, at the end of the day, the same thing. They want to know they're going to be okay. And that means different things to different people. So how do you, as an advisor, tap into really understanding what that means to your client and help put them on that path to security and comfort and feeling confident about their financial future? And I'm sorry, it's not about stock picking conversations. No. That's like golf course talk or locker room talk or, and people generally only share the success stories. Oh, I tripled my money on, XYZ company. Well, that's great, but that's not going to help you answer that main underlying question, which is, will I be okay? And I think women tend to do naturally a really good job of that. I also think that women clients, if they have a good experience, they tend to rave about it. Women tend to refer more often than men. So if that's the case, how do you engage and connect and create this great experience with your female clients so that they can help rave about you? And I think of an example. If you go to a restaurant for dinner one night with your significant other or maybe another couple, and you have a great experience at that restaurant, and, the food's delicious. The service, though, is the part you probably remember. The staff make you feel welcome and comfortable. They create this delightful, enjoyable evening. Maybe there's some humor involved. Maybe there's some fantastic recommendations and wine pairing. And just the whole evening is a success. What do you do the next day when you have a fantastic dining experience like that? You tell everybody, hey, guess where I ate last night? So how do we as financial advisors create that same kind of experience for our clients where they can't help but tell people about that experience? I think that's the secret. And you talked to her. Yeah, I'll pause.
There's a couple of huge takeaways there. First of all, you're right. My wife, as an advocate for something or someone, nobody has more persuasive impact. If she's completely bought in authentically, like, you need to know about this. There's also nobody more reluctant to share something that's mediocre or just to not go there. There's an interesting dynamic there, and her believability is incredibly strong. Now, you said something this is a huge takeaway for everybody around decommoditizing someone's value. The enlightened financial advisor spends less time talking about what they do and what their value is, and they spend more time talking about what it does and what it is their clients want, and then connecting what it is a client wants to how the financial advisor gets them there.
Yes.
You said it.
Yes.
What does a client want? A client wants to know they're going to be okay. And they want the liberation and order, right? So let's build on that as a value proposition and a branding strategy, articulating that value.
Yes. Well, and I think when you look at what a client values, advisors by default, I think because they're the experts, sometimes tend to assume they know. The only way you can really know what's important to the client, what gets them out of bed in the morning, what keeps them up at night, what their goals and dreams and what excites them, what scares them, is to probe and listen. And too often I see advisors jumping in to the sales pitch side. Nobody wants to be sold anything. They want solutions to issues, but you won't know what the issues are if you don't probe and ask the right questions. I still see advisors today, they're struggling with that process. They still feel like they have to sell themselves. And even if they're kind of migrating and evolving, it's how to ask the right questions. And they may not be the experts. And I'm not crying here, Duncan. I have allergies that are making my eyes water. So it's not that emotional of a discussion, but maybe it is. So how do we help them work through that? Like, how do we encourage advisors? You don't know. Here's an idea. As an advisor, if you have built a business and your value proposition to date has been primarily on the portfolio management and the value you can add in terms of rate of return and stock picking, how do you evolve from that to a true value proposition that the majority of clients really want to benefit from, which is more the financial planning, the journey, all the other elements, the tax saving strategy, the making decisions that are going to eliminate that fear and make clients feel more confident in their future and answer that question, will I be okay? Yes, you will, and here's why. And I think advisors, it's out of their comfort zone. Well, we all know as human beings, in order to grow and build confidence, we need to get out of our comfort zone. So what if you were to ask your clients more questions, knowing you didn't know the answer for them? And guess what? You don't have to know the answer. You just have to know the question they need to know the answer to, really understand it. Because to understand is to know what to do. You can rely on other experts within your firm, within your organization, within your own team. You can do research and come back to the client and help them answer the question. So if it's financial planning and you really don't have your financial planning designation, you don't know a lot about financial planning, you can learn it. You can rely on experts. You can hire external planners to come in or internal planners to work with your client. But what you can't do is avoid the topic. Well, you can avoid the topic. It's a choice you make, but you'll suffer the consequences of that. So get out of your comfort zone.
I like it. And more financial professionals have made that jump. Part of that was propelled by shifting to advisory and the accountability of continually being fee worthy. But it's just a better way to go anyway, is to never create a sales encounter, but instead perpetually focusing on this alignment of interests. And so not pitching a product, but positioning value that lines up with what they're trying to accomplish.
Yes.
Which is interesting because, I've been telling a lot of our clients that have been in the industry for a while, I say, look, the business, you've earned the right. The business is supposed to serve your life. Like I want you to set a goal to have 52 long weekends a year. I want you to set a goal to take a 6-month sabbatical in 18 months. You have earned the right to have a work optional lifestyle, to demonstrate to the world you love what you do. It's a calling. It's not a job. You go to work because you want to, not because you have to, and demonstrate that. So I'd like to ask you about the symmetry. Clients want a work optional lifestyle.
Yes.
How have you positioned with credibility your own work optional lifestyle and made it part of the reinforcement of their aspiration? I'm curious about that.
Oh my gosh, your timing on that question is perfect because I've just gone through a major life transition this year. So what I didn't tell you about my career path was after being told no, I wouldn't succeed as an advisor, and I did it anyway. My first year as an advisor at 25 years of age, almost 30 years ago, I brought in 20 million in assets the first year, 20 million the second year, 20 million the third year, which was unheard of at the time. And all of a sudden, people looked at me and said, oh, you've got it figured out. And, you have those 3 things going for you, Sybil. You're young, you're female, you're attractive. People are drawn to that. So, lesson learned, don't tell anyone else what you can or can't do, which was great. But the flip side of that is I worked my ass off. I put in long days. I was working 12-hour days. For the most part of my career, I did not work weekends. That was where I tried to draw the line, which is I need some time with family, with friends. And, in my book, The Female Edge, I have a whole chapter on work-life balance. Well, it means something different to me today than it did 12 months ago. I'll tell you that right now. And I will share with you what I learned in that. And there's no right answer, one right answer. It's really customized for each person. And I have an exercise in the book that I guide people through that will help you find your own work-life balance. And it's important because if we're coaching clients on this and we're advising them, the most common advice that an advisor gives is transitioning into retirement for a client. And that's a different lifestyle. Well, are you practicing what you preach? Are you, can you speak from experience? Or are you do as I say, not as I do type of person? I think that's really important to know the difference. So after building up a successful advisory practice, and I continued to grow that for years, was chairman's level producer for a number of years, I then decided to get into management as well. The manager of the branch I was working at the time with a previous firm was retiring. And so I stepped up and took over that role because I wanted some say. And I love having impact. I wasn't driven by title or money or any of those things. I was driven by impact. I still am to this day. And so that's another important question for advisors. What's driving you? Are you chasing a certain AUA and a revenue number, which is good? I mean, those are fine to have goals, but dig deeper. What's your real motivation? And my real motivation is impact. And the impact I can have on a client's life, and in the case of becoming manager, was the impact I could have on the branch with those advisors to help them have a bigger impact on their clients. So there's only one of me, and I can only have so much impact working with clients one-on-one. But as a manager, and practice management was a big part of what I incorporated in my management style, was how do I have a bigger impact on advisors and their impacts on clients, because now you're leveraging and you're having a big impact. Probably one of the reasons why you enjoy coaching so much is you can have a bigger impact. It's got a ripple effect. So that drove me. Then the firm, I joined Raymond James as a producing manager in Victoria. And then the leadership team saw value in what I was doing and kept promoting me. So up until December of 31st of last year, then I was executive vice president of Raymond James. I was overseeing their private client division, which is their asset management team, their portfolio advisory, 2 subsidiary companies, the insurance division, our Raymond James Limited USA cross-border division, their practice management department, financial planning. So big portfolio, big responsibility. And I was working 60 hours a week, loving every minute of it because I'm having impact. So again, that's a driver for me. So I loved it. But my husband retired in January of this year. And as we're having these conversations, and he's talking about all these fun plans and traveling and wanting to do things and taking off for like months at a time, I'm like, how am I going to be able to do that? That sounds like fun. I'm going to miss out on that. And he just looked at me and he said, Sybil, why don't you go back to being an advisor? And it was like this light went on for me. And so that's what I've done. So effective January 1 this year, I've gone back to an advisory practice. Now, when I sold my advisory practice 8 or 9 years ago to join the executive team at Raymond James, I held on to 20 clients. And that was important to me for a number of reasons. One, I love it. But the bigger reason, I never wanted to lose touch with the front lines. I think it made me a better leader, a better executive, because I never lost touch with the front lines. Advisors knew that. They knew they could come to me and I would get it. I still got it. I never lost touch. Now, it had the added benefit of when I stepped down from the executive role back on the advisory side now, is that I still get it. I don't have to relearn it. And now I can focus on building an advisory practice all over again. But I tell you, I'm in this magic spot because, people say, if I knew then what I knew now, like, could you imagine going back and being a teenager again, knowing what you know now? Like, oh my gosh, you would be like killing it in high school, I'm sure, on a number of different, in a number of different areas. But what I've realized my whole life is I had two speeds, go and stop. And what I thought was a work-life balance, so circling back to your question, worked for me then, but it doesn't work for me now. And I love that I did what I did. I have zero regrets. It's all part of the journey. But my idea of work-life balance is different now. So today, my idea of work-life balance is having a career working with clients, that I like and bring me joy, and I know I can add value to, that appreciate me and recognize I add value to and are happy to pay me for that. So it's a two-way street. So there's a perfect fit there. Also building a business that allows me to take off to Portugal for 3 weeks or do this or do that. So what I just did, my husband and I took off for 4 months. We traveled across the United States. We drove down to California. I live in Victoria. We drove down to California and then east over to Philadelphia. And we traveled all around the Eastern Seaboard because our son plays lacrosse. He's third year Div 1 lacrosse player in Philly. And so we were able to watch all of his games this season. I was still able to work because I can work remotely via Zoom. I have a full-time associate back in Vancouver that was able to run the fort and service clients' administrative needs. I could step up to the strategy. My appointments are Tuesdays and Thursdays. I use Calendly for clients. They can go on and just book whatever works for them, but it's a Tuesday and a Thursday. Now, of course, exceptions need to be made. If something's time sensitive or urgent, I'm going to be there for them. But my associate will be the gatekeeper on that. They call her and she's good at assessing. She'll reach out to me and say, Sybil, this is urgent. Great. I'll stop what I'm doing. I will be there to service my clients. But managing expectations, like less than 1% would ever need an appointment outside of a Tuesday and Thursday. So why do I make myself available 100% of the time? It just runs me ragged. So anyways, I'm living the life now, Duncan. I am happy. I am more present for my clients. I'm delivering even better value to my clients. And I can relate to them and they trust me more because I'm living the life they want to live too. So they take my advice. It's great.
Well, and for me, my take from that is the word credibility. When you're a manager and you're not talking from a hypothetical perspective, you can actually relate to a financial advisor because you yourself still have clients. That's credibility.
It is. And I mean, when you look at some core values, and I think all advisors listening to this, what are your core values, and are you living those core values? And my number one core value is integrity. And I look at integrity. I mean, it's honesty, it's doing the right thing. But it's doing the right thing even when no one's looking. And to me, that is really, really important. But another core value of mine is, two other values. There's those allergies acting up again. Do what you said you're going to do, and lead by example. Practice what you preach. And so that ties into what you're saying it's lead by example. And that shines through when you're working. So as a manager, when I'm, working with colleagues across the organization, as part of the executive team, I can relate to the advisors, but now as an advisor, I can relate to clients.
Well, and again, the credibility, I mean, it's admirable to have a strong work ethic. It's also admirable to be congruent. I mean, to find that sweet spot in life between income and impact.
Yes.
That's powerful. And then I'm curious, have you ever had to lean on a client respectfully to give them permission to take some time off or go on a vacation and basically say to them, look, you've earned this?
Like, you mean me telling the client to go?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Me telling the client all the time. And, we're all human. And I think common fears come up, whether it's the advisor or the client, like what's getting in your way of taking more time off? That's the question you need to ask yourself. As an advisor asking a client, it's not enough to just tell them to do it. They have to want to do it. Mm-hmm. So something's getting in their way. What is it? Mm-hmm. Probe. Ask the question. Come right out. What is getting in your way? You'll be amazed at what you hear. And you don't have to solve their problem for them. It's like be a counselor. They'll solve their own problem. They'll come up with their own answer by you asking the question and getting them to think about it. So for some, it's, taking time off. They're worried about what other people will think.
Yeah.
They'll be judged. Oh, you don't work hard enough. You're not committed. You're not giving it 100%. Your interests lie elsewhere. That's all nonsense, of course. But it's that self-talk, and maybe that's getting in their way. Maybe they're a business owner, and when they go away, they don't have the right people in place to take over. That applies to advisors too. Can your business operate when you're away from it? If it can't, you probably need to look at your team. You probably need to look in the mirror. What do you need to do differently to have your business running on autopilot? If you're advising a client, what do they need to do differently? Because if only you can do it and it doesn't run when you're not there, then you haven't done things the right way yet. And is that really true, or is it just your idea? Mm-hmm. If you ask your team, maybe they can run it without you, and you're the one that's just got this wrong idea in your head. But you got to dig a little deeper into it and really find out what's getting in people's way from not taking that time off. And, there was a great book that I read years ago, and I read it again while I was on my 4-month journey. And it was The 4-Hour Workweek. Mm-hmm. And, come on, I'm looking at this on the surface going, 4-hour work week, that sounds lazy to me. Well, I read the book and it doesn't sound lazy at all. And it's not really about only working 4 hours a week, although that's a really good goal to set. I mean, maybe you work 20 or 30 hours a week, but that's better than 60 maybe. What would you do with that extra time? Are there more important things? Are you accomplishing everything in life from a full balanced life wheel? And again, back to the book, Duncan. It's in there. The wheel, like what's important. We get too stuck on one thing sometimes, and we forget about all the other things we want to do. But the 4-hour work week, it's about that as well. It's about prioritizing and being self-sufficient and leveraging and giving other people an opportunity to step up and do things. And as a business owner, you can be up here. And then you have people that you've empowered to run their areas, and it makes them feel good. I don't think anybody likes working in just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Well, actually, that's not true. There are some people like that. And if you can find people that love that, you want to hire them too. But ideally, you want to hire people that are empowered to think for themselves and solve problems. So,
well, it's interesting.
Have it all.
A lot of high performers in any field of endeavor have this sort of subconscious paranoia, guilt that they have to be present. And that becomes a pattern. And then they just delay any gratification around fueling up.
Yes.
So there's that issue. So some people need to be told or given permission at a minimum to, hey, you've earned this. But what's interesting, I've yet to meet a financial professional who is not more productive in 4 days than they ever were in 5.
Oh,
and
I agree.
We did a time audit. This is very common. So let's say 4 days in a week. That's what, 32 hours?
Yep.
Okay. Now the Pareto principle says 80% of your productivity comes from 20% of your activity. That means of those 32 hours, there's between 6 to 8 hours where a financial advisor that week will have 80% of their impact.
Yes.
So just demystifying the whole thing about reacting, firefighting, and just saying, what do you get paid to do? What is the best use of your time? Let's focus on that and let that compound.
Yes.
Is incredibly powerful. Now, what's interesting, this is a core from our playbook. Like the perpetual goal is decommoditize your value, depersonalize the business. So it's not like the Sybil show. It's not the Duncan show. And demystify, like remove the mystery for a client. Be completely transparent, be an open book, be the proverbial open kitchen. Now, so where I'm going with that as it relates to you is you have rules of engagement, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yes.
Now you'll make exceptions, but Tuesdays and Thursdays, those are rules of engagements. And you're saying 99% of clients comply with that. They say that makes sense. And they self-populate Calendly. They just
99.9, 99.9.
Remove the mystery.
Yes. This
is your day. I'm all in this day. I'll react if there's an issue, an emergency, but this is your day. Okay. So they respond to that.
100%. It's easy for them. Like they just know, they go into the Calendly, they just pick a day. They don't even think about it. I mean, really, how often do things come up that are so urgent that they need to have a meeting on a different day? I mean, it happens, but not very often. And that actually, the other side of it is it's running a proactive, consistent service model business.
Yeah.
Clients rarely call me for a meeting. The meetings are pre-scheduled in advance based on the appropriate review schedule for each client.
Like the dental office. You're not waiting for them to book.
No.
You're setting the pattern.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Now, let's go a little deeper into the whole professional scarcity element. And again, demystifying, making sure clients understand this. You made a conscious decision, even now that you're full-on financial professional again, to have a very small group of clients.
Yes.
Do you tell your clients that? Do you say to them, look, my goal is not to see how big I can get. It's how small I can stay so I do not dilute the client experience.
100%.
Okay. How do they respond?
Great. So I'm also very picky on who I work with as a client. And so that first meeting, I explain to them, like, look, I'm very selective on who I work with. I want to make sure it's the right fit. I want to make sure that we get along, that we're aligned philosophically on approach and even investment strategy. For example, I don't want to work with the the client that is always chasing the hot stock of the day and micromanaging the investment decisions. I'm not interested in that. There's other advisors out there who enjoy that. Go work with them. And I'm putting a cap. I only want to work with a maximum of 40 or 50 clients. I am focusing on working with C-suite executives and successful entrepreneurs who are about to, a few years away from transitioning into retirement or have recently retired. That's my niche. Typical investment portfolio is 10 million and up. And that's it. And so even when it just is what it is. People appreciate it.
Wow.
I will have a phone call with anybody of any asset size initial meeting. And I love doing that because, I do get referrals. I get referrals that come in through my television show, The Wealthy Life. I get referrals that come from COIs, accountants and lawyers. And part of the brand that I have built over the years with integrity. Again, I mentioned that's my core value. What I'm about to tell you ties into that beautifully. And it is part of my brand. People know that. I refer business to other advisors on a regular and consistent basis. I refer more clients to other advisors than I ever take on myself. And I've done that for years. I've done that since I was branch manager, because as soon as I took that branch manager role, I would get calls, as the branch manager would come in. I would never take a client on as a branch manager, producing branch manager, that came in to me as a branch manager. It's not right. That's abusing the position of power I had and influence. I would always refer them out. But because clients know that, and I explain we're going to have a discussion and see if there's a potential fit. And if I can add value to you and you feel that it's a good fit and I feel it's a good fit, then we'll talk about next steps and working together. But if either I don't feel I can add the value you're looking for, or we're not a fit, or you don't feel there's a fit, I am going to refer you to someone that I think would be a good fit. So back to that example of the active stock trading client, or another one I had was actually a client who didn't believe in fee-based. They wanted a commission-based account. And I won't go into the details on why, but I thought, well, I'm not even going to worry about trying to change their mind. There is an advisor at Raymond James who believes the same thing. What a beautiful marriage between the two of them. So I referred that client to that advisor. It was perfect. And because of that, because I come out and state, I'm very selective, and I don't know if I'm going to work with you, if I can add value to you, and I may refer you to someone else at the end of this conversation. Well, they instantly want to work with me. It has that effect. And whether we do work together or not is almost secondary. I want to make sure that they do have the right fit and I have the right fit, because everyone's happier at the end of the day. You're not going to, if you think about, would you have married every person you ever dated in your life? Hope not. Because there'd be a way higher divorce rate if people all of a sudden, I'm dating this person, I'm going to marry them. They're not the right fit. Oops, divorce, move on to the next one. So take the time.
Listen, I'm still shocked my wife said yes. So almost 30 years later, the professional scarcity, I want everybody just to remember that activates belonging.
Yes.
A client feels like they belong to something. That's very, very important for long-term, durable, competitor-proofed relationships. I also am 100% convinced that it activates a sifting mechanism where clients naturally become advocates that introduce instead of referring someone with the assumption that they need to become a client. You see, again, by definition, an advocate, it feels they're doing someone a disservice by not making the introduction. So if you think of the alignment, if I'm your client and you've told me, you said, Duncan, listen, I love what I do. If you ever feel compelled to introduce someone to me, I will make the time to be a sounding board for them. There is no expectation they need to become a client. If they want to become a client, it's a separate conversation. We'll follow their lead. If it's a good fit, we can pursue that. If it's not a good fit, I will introduce them. That's one of the beautiful elements of my journey, is that I'm well connected. I know a lot of different people. I will make an introduction based on where I think there's an alignment of interest. That is interpreted with so much professionalism. And I also love what you did. You described your ideal client, but you did not lead with a number.
No. It's secondary.
It's I know a lot of people, and I know a lot about a lot of people. The one thing I don't know is how much money they have.
Yes.
But I know how old they are. I know what they do for a living.
Yeah.
I know, what makes them tick. So when you're describing to a client who you're suited for, describe the socioeconomics. My ideal client is typically someone like you. They're a self-made business owner, professional or executive, highly motivated, very ambitious, hardworking.
Yeah.
They want to get to a point of financial independence. They want their money to make more money than they do. They want a work optional lifestyle. And typically what that means is they have an investment portfolio in the area of $10 million or more. But again, it's more about the socioeconomics and the demographics. That is so important because a client can make sense of that. They can't make sense of a minimum.
No, and make it easy for them to tell the story. So,
well said.
Advisors need to have, in my opinion, a target market. Who do you serve? And there are a lot of generalists out there, and there's actually some very successful generalists. So I always joke they're successful in spite of themselves. But that's okay too. It works for them. Mm-hmm. But it's easier to get referrals if you have a niche market. One of our advisors at Raymond James focuses on dentists. He's the dentist advisor. Very clear. Like as soon as you focus and narrow down to what that target market is about, then it's easy for clients to explain, when they run into someone like that, you should see my advisor. So having a niche market, I think, is important for the advisor as well, because it makes your life so much easier. If you understand your target market, so mine working with, executives and successful entrepreneurs, that's me. Like I know what they deal with. I've been at the C-suite. I understand the pressures and the challenges. I also understand the desire to explore more of a work-life balance. And what does retirement look like? How does my identity change when I'm no longer executive and I'm, transitioning into the next phase of my life? Estate planning, like everything that revolves around their needs, I understand. And then I can build a value proposition, a service model, and a client experience customized for that type of client. And then that client immediately will want to tell their friends, and usually people hang out with other like people. And so executives know other executives. And so it's easy for them to tell the story. So make it easy to tell the story.
Well, and just from a credibility perspective, again, business owners, professionals, executives have a higher appreciation for best practices, standard operating procedures, consistency, because that's their world too. That's what they try to provide for their own clients. So when they realize that the financial advisor is not all about their technical ability and core competency, but they run a business like a business. It's not a book of business to them. There's professional contrast there that is respected because of the alignment. Okay. I want to ask you another question, and this has come up. I had a conversation with a financial professional about this, got me thinking, and then I started asking others after that initial conversation. With everything that's going on in the world, is the conversation around benevolence and charitable giving and creating a financial legacy that serves. Is that something you are proactive with, or is that coming up more in your interactions with clients lately?
Oh, 100%. And it's not lately. It's been for many, many years. So about 10 years ago, I set up my own charitable foundation account, and through the Raymond James Canada Foundation. And I put about 5% of my net income into that every single year. It's built up, so I then can distribute to charities I believe in from that foundation every year. So it's creating that purpose. And I've guided other clients through that. So again, practicing what you preach. But it is important to a lot of people, not everybody, but that's one of the fit alignment questions I also ask at the beginning. Doesn't mean if I meet with a client that's not charitable that we won't work together necessarily, but it will cause me to think and probe a little more what's driving this individual. Because if the individual is just money driven for the sake of money, I will not work with them. Hey, I like money. You like money. We all like money. But being driven by money for the sake of having more money is, to me, the wrong driver. It's what money can do. What can money do for you? Can it provide that peace? Can it reduce stress? Can it create security and safety for your family? Can it have an impact? For me, impact is important. And that's where charity comes in. But when I give to charity, I also am very selective on what charities I give to. Mm-hmm. And there's so many great causes out there, Duncan. How do you decide and know who to give to? Again, look at yourself. You can't change everything. So what's most important to you? I am driven by having a positive impact in women's equality issues. And that's just been near and dear to me. I mean, I've had my own stories that I've shared with you that I've had to overcome. And I want to see more women in the industry. I want to see women financially independent and secure. I don't want to see women ever feeling like they're trapped in a bad job or trapped in a bad marriage. How do we empower women to stand up for themselves? So not only was that also the inspiration for the book, but it's also the inspiration behind my charitable giving. So some of the things I do with that is I have a couple of different awards that I grant to women each year. So there's a Women in Leadership Award at the University of Victoria that is given to a fourth-year commerce student that has an interest in pursuing a career in finance or leadership. And so an award is granted there. I have an award through the YWCA in Vancouver, and it's a single moms program. And single moms apply to this program that want to go back and pursue a post-secondary designation of some type to enhance their skills to be able to get a better job to better support their family. And so that's a $5,000 a year award that is granted, and it pays for their tuition so they can go back to school. And so it's like, that's impactful. And you know what's really cool about this, Duncan, is I don't need any recognition for any of that. But I will tell you, I get a letter from the recipient of the award each year, and the impact it's had in their life. Holy smokes, that means more than anything to me, to know that my gift has had such a positive impact, inspires me to do more of it. The types of clients that I work with, higher net worth clients, they have more money than they need in their lifetime. Their bigger questions are around, how do I give some to my kids, but not enough? Like, not so much that it spoils them, but enough that they'll be okay. How do I teach them, my kids, to be good stewards of this finance? How do I engage with my family to have a conversation about having a positive impact in our community? How do we create a legacy through charitable giving and community impact that we could do together as a family and make our money have more meaning? Mm-hmm. So yes, the short answer is yes, that conversation comes up all the time. But it starts with me as well. You know, it means something to me.
So out of these conversations that I've had recently about the concept of benevolence, I had one advisor, to your point, who said that when they meet with a prospective client, it's actually part of their fit process.
Yes.
Is this advisor said, I don't want to work with somebody who's not predisposed to the community and charitable giving. It's just not a good fit. We don't see the world the same way. And he reminded me of a quote that I'm going to look up as I'm stalling here. I'll see if I can pull it up. It was very, very strong. You said something. You reminded me of a mentor who a long time ago who said, first of all, he made a joke. He said, look, money's not everything, but it ranks up there with oxygen. So make as much as you can, but just remember something. It's not how much you have that will make you valuable. It's who you become because of how much you have. What it reveals in you as a person. That is etched for me. But the takeaway, I think, for our listeners is it's not just an intention to inspire benevolence in your clients. Position it as part of your process. Literally say to a client, hey, we've added a component to our process. Many of our clients are starting to think about family investment legacy, charitable giving. And so I myself and part of our team, we've activated a couple of scholarships to inspire people in these areas. And I'm starting to sense from my clients, they're starting to open up to me about what's important to them. I had a client that's set up a foundation for stray dogs in Mexico. I had another client who set up a foundation for families coping with autism. And it just became this energy and the chemistry. And one advisor in particular was saying that literally having conversation with clients who were choked up, who started sharing things about what was going on in their family, that they probably wouldn't have gone there had this not been positioned as part of the process. Every financial advisor has value-added services, but they're only value-added if they're positioned properly, not just because you're a good person, but because you've thought it all through. This is part of your process. This makes you fee-worthy. This makes you referable. So I'm glad that, and I'm not surprised that this is something, A, you've done, credibility, but B, that it's also something that's coming out, because I think this is how we lead the world through this nonsense to the renaissance that's on the other side, is we just take charge and we take action. And this is what's beautiful about this profession. You talk about taking 4 months off. Like, you were in touch. You were still running your business.
I was still working Tuesdays and Thursdays from anywhere. But I was able to have this amazing 4-month cross-America adventure. We slept in our Mercedes Sprinter van at the top of the Grand Canyon. We saw Nashville. We saw Mount Rushmore. We hung out on Cape Cod and the Hamptons and South Carolina. And it was just amazing.
That's awesome. And that's the beauty about this industry. It's portable. You can operate the business pretty much from your phone, and you get to have an impact on people. And it's not just what their statements say. You're helping them craft a legacy. That's profound. I mean, one of the most respected people in the financial services space is Jim Bowen at First Trust. He calls the financial professional, he calls it the noble profession, the guardians of wealth.
Yes.
But the fact that it can also encourage somebody to not just make a profit, but leave a profit, like leave things and people better than you found them. That is a unique and profound dimension of this space that we're in. So I'm very, very excited. Okay, Sybil.
Yes.
Yeah, you're on LinkedIn. I know you're very active there. People can find you on LinkedIn.
Yes.
thefemaleedge.com.
And it's on Amazon. You can go to sybilvirch.com. There's a link there, or you can just look on Amazon.
Okay, beautiful. And The Wealthy Life, what's going on there?
thewealthylife.com. Check it out. Actually, it's a great tool that advisors can use to help educate their clients. I've just told you I only work with 40 or 50 clients max, so you don't have to worry about me taking any clients away from or prospects away from you. But it's how The Wealthy Life even started was I wanted to help educate clients. I don't think financial literacy, it's low in Canada, and I don't think we do a good job teaching it at school. And the majority of households don't do a good job because they need help themselves. So I was thinking, how do I help more people? We bring other advisors on the show. I interview them as guest experts. So if anyone's interested in being a guest expert on season 8 of The Wealthy Life, reach out to me.
It's a great program, and you're right. I mean, that's why I said in the beginning that you're an advocate for the advisor-client relationship and the strength of that relationship. Yes. So it's just a great tool to help somebody understands, how to articulate value to a client and share some success stories. Very highly recommended. So, okay. I didn't find that quote, but I am going to find it, and we're going to tag it when we post this conversation. The quote is something about, he said it, and I got to look it up again, but it's about knowing where your money's going. Because this financial advisor said to me, he had a client that really opened up to the conversation about benevolence. And then the client started talking about this one charity, and the advisor did a little digging. And I think it was something around 95% of the income taken into this charity fueled internal consumption.
Oh,
very little went out to the ground. And he's thinking, oh my gosh, how do I break it to my client that this might not be? Anyway, he just got around that, and he had this very forthright conversation with the client just to expand their thinking.
Yes.
About knowing where it's going. And the client responded beautifully. So anyway, take that for what
it's worth. And they can get that on CRA. CRA has all the charities listed, registered charities, and it tells you all their financials. It's public information. So it's actually easy for an advisor to pull it up.
Yeah, fantastic. Good point. Okay, everybody. Thank you, Sybil. Really appreciate it. Sybil's an essential follow on LinkedIn. Check out The Wealthy Life. Check out The Female Edge. And we'll have to have you back. We'll talk about this again further because there's so much here. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Duncan, and wishing all the advisors and the listeners out there success. Conceive, believe, achieve.
Love it.
Thank you for listening to Always On with Duncan MacPherson, where our objective is to enable professionals to always be working on their business and on themselves. Want to learn more about Duncan and his team? Visit ParetoSystems.com. Don't forget to click the follow button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the hosts and/or guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Pareto Systems. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast is powered by Proudmouth, the Influence Accelerators. If you're like me and want to spend more time educating people and less time selling, Proudmouth helps turn Main Street experts like you into trusted mainstream authorities. They will help amplify your influence over a growing audience of magnetically attracted fans. Visit proudmouth.com to learn more.